Yes, that is my real last name. And if you think that sounds wrong, you should try spelling it over the phone, which I have to do every single day at work. It is a total nightmare. I usually go with the as in method, so it's like B as in boy, E as in east, Y as in yes, yada, yada, yada. And I always kind of think to myself, is the person on the other side of the line actually listening to the as-ins? Like, are they paying attention? I've always kind of wanted to find that out, Go something like, yep, Beyersdorfer, Beyersdorfer. That's B as in basically, E as in everyone, Y as in yelled, E as in especially, R as in Randy, S as in sometimes, D as in dad dicking, O as in often, R as in ruins, F as in families, E as in everyday, R as in relationships. If that person was listening, they would have heard basically everyone yell, especially Randy. Sadly, dad dicking often ruins families' everyday relationships. They would have some questions, like, why was everyone yelling? Why was Randy especially upset about what was ever going on? What is dad dicking? Did Randy get dad dicked? See, now I've added some intrigue to the conversation. It's not just a normal, everyday work conversation. We're talking about relationships, love, and dad dicking. That's what it's all about. Not dad dicking. Love. And I actually have a saying about love. Love's a little bit like being pregnant. Sometimes it's only temporary. I'm kidding. I think I'm just a little bit jaded because, for work I have to travel so much that I don't really have time for relationships, so I usually kind of limit it to one-night stands. But, I'm very respectful. I warn the girl every time. I say, look, having a one-night stand with me is a lot like getting late-night McDonald's. You're gonna regret that quarter pounder you put in your mouth last night. No, but I do actually have to travel a lot for work. And being based out of Chicago, it can be kind of difficult, because the weather is terrible. But I've had to pay a lot of attention to the weather, and I've kind of noticed recently that weather reporting has become way, way too sensationalized. Like, I think we've had about 12 snowpocalypses in the past 2 years. And then all of a sudden they started using the term bomb cyclone to talk about snowstorms. And they all started using it at the same time. And I started thinking, how did that start? How did they all start to know to use that word at the same time? What are these weather people doing? And I thought, well, maybe they have like a weatherman convention every year where everyone in weather gets together, like the Green Screen Summit, maybe it's called. Probably takes place in like Akron, Ohio at like a Ramada Inn, or some other hotel that, where every guest is either a victim or a suspect, like that type of hotel I'm talking about. But everyone in the weather world would show up, there would be Chicago's own Tom Skilling, who's a respected weatherman, mid-2000s rapper Hurricane Chris, who brought us such songs as A Bebe and A Bebe. Also, Stormy Daniels' lawyer Michael Avenatti would be there. Also, Steve Harvey for some reason. Kind of just at all these things now. And right after YouTube legend Tayson Day gave his thoughts on chocolate rain, and right before the yearly blessing of the rains down in Africa, Al Roker would jump up on stage because he's the most famous weatherman. And he'd get up and say, everyone, we need solutions. No one is watching weather anymore. How do we up our ratings? And then Heatwave Williams from Huntsville Fox News, first ever all-literate news team in Huntsville, Alabama, would jump up and be like, well, what if we change the names of the storms to make them more interesting? Like if we called tornadoes down south sucking fucks. I was like, that's a good idea. Don't know about that one specifically, but good idea. And then someone else popped up in the back and was like, well, what if instead of sensationalizing the weather, we just called blizzards, and snowstorms, and just left it at that? To which Al Roker said, what if you shut the fuck up? He did not like what was going on in that neck of the woods. And he finally got frustrated. He was like, fine. Well, if no one else can think of any good ideas, I think I thought of a good one. What if we started calling them bomb cyclones and snowpocalypses? And the entire room burst into applause. Everyone but Tom Skilling. who was pleading with anyone near him saying, "Why are we listening to Al Roker? Why are we listening to Al Roker? He doesn't even have a degree in meteorology. He majored in communications," because no one talks about the fact that Al Roker is the most famous weatherman in the world, and he doesn't even have a degree in meteorology. How does that happen? He's a total fraud. He's like the Ashley Simpson of weather. If you remember one thing from tonight, take home one thing, it is that Al Roker is a total fraud. And that dad dicking is ruining relationships with families nationwide. That's my time. You guys have been great. Thank you so much.